everybody. I'm Sharon. I'm a compulsive eater in recovery today. I'm abstinent from compulsive eating because I do what you all do. I plan 3 weighed and measured meals a day from the Cambridge Grey Sheet. I write my food down. I was just checking to see if my Grey Sheet was here, but it's in the kitchen. In the kitchen with all my bits and pieces. So I weigh and measure. I plan 3 meals a day from the Grey Sheet. I write my meals down. I commit them to my sponsor. I don't eat anything in between my meals, no matter what. My abstinence is the most important thing in my life without exception. And I've been back-to-back Grey Sheet abstinence since the 25th of March 2006. So I've been weighing and measuring back-to-back for 17 years, 5 months and 20 days. Yay! A day at a time, a meal at a time. And I'm abstinent because I'm part of this fellowship. I'm not doing this on my own. I don't make this up as I go along. I don't make any independent food decisions. I'm only abstinent because I follow your example. I have a sponsor. I do what she tells me to do. I go to meetings. I do all the things that I was told to do at the beginning. I share, I outreach with people. I'm involved in service. And it's not because I'm perfect or I'm trying to get 100%, although my abstinence is 100%. You're either abstinent or you're not. It's a bit like being pregnant. You're either pregnant or you're not. And but I have needed you every step of the way to tell me how to deal with life in between weighing and measuring my food. Weighing and measuring my food is not difficult for me. It's something I do. I'm a champion. I'm champion perfectionist. I'm a deep, but I control things to the minutest within an inch of its life. And I needed to be a perfectionist as a child. It helped me to survive in a very chaotic environment. So perfection, well, what I thought was perfection, straight lines, clean surfaces, organized cupboards, books put on shelves from the biggest to the smallest, color-coded socks, kept things in order, helped me to feel safe. So weighing and measuring my food, planning my meals, writing them down, getting my meals, preparing my meals, buying my ingredients, sorting that for me was just a godsend. It was just like, oh, you're going to tell me how to organize my food. I was delighted. And so, but the tricky bit is living in between meals. And that's where this fellowship has come alive for me, because once I put the food on the scale and I've eaten my meal and then I go back into my life, then what do I do? It's like I spent most of my life, all of my teens, all of my 20s and most of my 30s. So now you can work out how old I am. So I got here at 37 and by that point, I had almost killed myself trying to control the food on my own. I was single. I was struggling to decide what career path I wanted to take. I'd had a couple of careers in my 20s, which I sort of tore down, as they say, sort of build things up. And then because of my food addiction and my self-loathing and my preoccupation with how I looked, I was so obsessed with how I looked and how I wanted you to see me and what I thought you thought of me and how I looked, how skinny I was, how much my clothes fitted me perfectly. The sort of media that we get fed all day, every day, the sort of image of sort of what a woman's supposed to look like, which is a complete lie. But of course, I was conditioned to believe that that's what we were expected to be. And I sort of chased that ridiculous kind of illusion of what I thought perfection was. And of course, it was never enough. It was never good enough, and developed horrendous dysmorphia from a very young age. So I couldn't tell the difference between reality and fantasy. And my head is designed in a certain way that it's developed a fantastical view of what my body shape should be. So, with the help of my sponsor and years of abstinence and working this program and getting professional and medical help, I've been able to develop some tools around how to, come more into reality with the help of my sponsor, around what I see in my photographs, what I see in the mirror, and what I see looking back at me on the screen. And it's taken years and years of daily commitment, daily affirmations, daily gratitude, daily commitments around being of use to others, bottom lining self-obsession when I'm thinking about when I'm in self-obsessed thoughts, to admit it to my sponsor, apply the 3-second rule, do something different, you know. So when the food went on the scale and I got to my weight was stable, I'm within a sort of a 10-pound range. In the last 17 years, my weight has fluctuated by, you know, either 5 up or 5 down. You know, in the big scheme of things, I could put on 14 pounds in a weekend when I was in the food. And for 17 years, I've maintained, you know, just a normal average size body. You know, there are times when I struggle. I want to be a sort of anorexically thin. I want to be 20 pounds lighter than I am. But it doesn't last. It's a sort of a nanosecond of old behavior. And since coming to Grey Sheet, you know, having suffered all my life with that preoccupation of wanting to be something other than who I am, after years, I managed to get an education and in work that I really love. I have 2 careers now. I got married. Learned how to date healthily in abstinence, how to choose a healthy, stable, trustworthy, you know, delicious husband who I'm now married. I got married in abstinence. My sponsor was at my wedding. She weighed and measured my food. So that was the one day I didn't, you know, I had somebody sat beside me and did that for me. As I said, I've gone on to do trainings and travel the world and do all kinds of wonderful things in abstinence, from kayaking across glacial lakes to hiking 7 days in the mountains to backpacking with, you know, 40 kilos of food on my back. And the beauty of that is the more as you walk, so your pack gets lighter, you know. And so there's ways of doing all kinds of wonderful things. I've run long distance, I've swum in open water, long distance swimming. I've done all kinds of things without having to change my food, without having to increase my protein or to add any kind of ridiculous ingredient that somebody suggests is a good idea for endurance. What a load of nonsense. You know, I have more endurance than people who were stuffing the foods we don't eat down their throats. And that's just been my experience. And so life on life's terms is happening. And, you know, I didn't get abstinent and get slim and be able to wear beautiful clothes and do all the things I always wished for and be married to a handsome, beautiful, trustworthy, respectful husband. I didn't do those things and then life just be a smooth ride. That hasn't been my experience. So in between my meals, I work a spiritual program of action that comes, for those of you who are new, we work a 12-step program of recovery in this fellowship with a sponsor. We've got wonderful literature here. We've got the 12 steps and 12 traditions in GreySheeters Anonymous. We have the Living Abstinent book. We work both those books with a sponsor. I work with my sponsor. I pass it on to my sponsees. So in that literature, it gives me a sort of design for living once my food is taken care of. So I have a personality that, as I said, was designed in an alcoholic home. So I'm quick to temper. I want to be right. Like I said, did I mention I can be controlling? You know, and so I've had to learn with the food on the scale how to change. I've had to change not my personality completely, but I've had to pause when agitated. I've had to learn how to say sorry when I've made a mistake. I've had to learn how to put my hands up and admit when I've been wrong, admit when I don't know something. Ask for help, imagine that. And of course, in this fellowship, if you don't ask for help, you won't stay abstinent. If you try and do this by yourself, you won't stay abstinent. That's my experience. I watch people come and go here like the wind. You know, they come in, they want all the wonderful freedoms of abstinence, and they're just not willing to do the work, and they don't stick around, or they just make it really difficult for themselves and struggle and regularly struggling and not surrendering. And surrender here is should be the second word after admitting powerlessness, is that surrendering and saying, I can't do this, please will you help me? And so I've had to learn how to change. You know, I've had to learn how to be kind to myself, tolerant, patient, how to practice self-compassion, how to let go of my pride, how to let go of wanting to be right. And boy, oh boy, does being married teach you how to do that. That thing called compromise. Is that 5? Thanks, Barbara. Yeah, and as I said, life shows up. My mother is very ill. She's not, I don't know how much longer she's going to be around. It's a real struggle because she's fighting with every ounce of her being to maintain her independence. And I have to sit alongside and give her the dignity of choice, even though I think her choices are really unsafe. But at the moment, we don't have power. She won't let me have power of attorney, so I can't act on her behalf with regards to her welfare or her, her financial or her health issues. And it's very difficult. Am I going to eat on it? No. My father lives thousands and thousands and thousands of miles away from England. He's on a completely different continent. He's older than my mum. He's living alone in a big property. I don't believe he's safe. We're going to be needing to travel all that way in December. We've just used all of our cash to pay for a huge, big an improvement in a property that may not happen because the majority of investors aren't prepared to pay their portion at the moment. So a huge financial insecurity. Am I going to eat on it? No. Thank God I have a secure job. I have a secure income. I'm debt free, which is another miracle of being grey sheet abstinent. If you put the food down, all sorts of things rise to the surface for attention. I had to learn how to get clean around money, around borrowing, around compulsive spending, around my addiction to fantasy and love, around my addiction to Did I say fantasy already? Anyway, but you know what? Sometimes quickly, sometimes slowly, and there isn't a single thing that has come up for me in my life since coming to GreySheeters Anonymous that one of you haven't already been through and stayed abstinent through. And that's the beauty of, that's why we outreach, is that we build a network of women and men, women for women, men for men, or whatever works for you. You find your tribe, who we can speak to on a regular basis with whatever's going on, whether it's sickness and health, rich and poor. It's almost like we help each other in all areas. And I don't keep anything a secret. My sponsor knows everything about me. And because I can tell you the truth about myself, I've got nothing to hide. And I'm continuing to do whatever it takes to stay abstinent. This is the most precious thing in the world. I have a life because I'm abstinent. If I put anything before my abstinence, I've watched others in this fellowship do that and lose their abstinence. I don't want to suffer anymore. I'm done with suffering because of my untreated food addiction and body obsession. I'm done with that. So hopefully I can age gracefully now, and you can witness me moving into my mid-50s, and I'm praying I can do it gracefully. My hair hasn't turned grey yet, although I do have some grey, and my body is changing as I'm getting older. It's just life, not the end of the world. And yeah, I'm gonna end it there. Thanks for letting me share, and I look forward to hearing what you have to say.